So it's been 20 years since the first Resident Evil movie from 2002, and I think it will be interesting to revisit the first Resident Evil movie from 2002, 20 years later, seeing what I think of it, doing a review of it, revisiting it, and also seeing if it holds up, does it hold up. That's what this video is going to be about. We're going to be reviewing the Resident Evil 2002 movie and see if it holds up, revisiting it 20 years later, seeing what I think of it. That's what this video will be about. We'll be reviewing the Resident Evil 2002 movie. I also will say that this won't be a spoiler-free video. I want to warn people that this review will contain spoilers, so there will just be full-on spoilers for this review, so just know that before going in hand watching this review. That's all I gotta say. Welcome to the review for the Resident Evil 2002 movie. 20 years later, does it hold up? Let's check it out. Here it is. What's up YouTube, it's JackalGoldKick, and in this video I'm going to be doing a movie review for the Resident Evil movie from 2002, which is the first entry in the live-action Resident Evil movie series made by Paul W.S. Anderson, based on the Resident Evil video game series. So the Resident Evil 2002 movie is a horror, sci-fi, action movie. Those are the genres it goes for. So before I get into reviewing this Resident Evil movie, I want to say that I might review all the live-action Resident Evil movies. We'll have to see, but I'll try to do all of them because I feel like I want to do all of them. They're all available on Tubi TV for free, so I'm able to see all of them. So I think it would be interesting to talk about them on this channel, revisit them, and see what I think of them nowadays, because I am a fan of the Resident Evil game series. I've seen these movies years ago, but I haven't seen them in such a long time. The only one I didn't get to see is the final chapter. But since I'm able to see all these on Tubi right now, I think this would be the perfect time to revisit the series and even make reviews on the movies and see what I think of them nowadays. It'll be an interesting series to revisit because it is a movie series. It is pretty hated and does have a bad reception because it's an adaptation of the Resident Evil video game series, and it's not 100% just accurate to the source material, and that's pretty much why it has a bad, hated reception. But let's get into reviewing this Resident Evil 2002 movie. Now, right off the bat, I thought this was an alright film, to be honest. I didn't mind the Resident Evil 2002 film. I thought it was a decent film. I was entertained by it, and I didn't mind it. I thought it was decent, and I thought it was an alright movie. So, yeah, let's get into reviewing the Resident Evil 2002 movie. So the concept of the film is essentially you got these group of Umbrella soldiers who go into the hive to shut down the Red Queen, and then bad things happen there along with a few characters they came across. It's pretty much like the concept of the film is you got these Umbrella soldiers who come into this mansion and they go underground and figure out what's going on down there and to also shut down the Red Queen, but things go wrong and they get turned away from their objective and just bad things start to happen there. You got zombies that come after them, there's a licker that shows up, some zombie dogs, things like that. Basically, things don't go to plan when they go there. So the film starts with like this introduction where you get like some explanation and exposition on Umbrella, a little bit of information on them as a song is playing as well. And this song that's playing is really good. Marilyn Manson made the song and composed it for the movie, and he did a really good job making the song. It's probably one of the best things about this movie is that the song for it, the main music they use a few times in this film, it's really good. It's probably one of the best movie soundtrack songs I've heard. It's put together really well. It fits the aesthetic of Resident Evil. Marilyn Manson did a really good job making that one, and it's a solid song. And then after that, you get the zoom-in scene of the laboratory where someone's messing with the vitals, and they end up taking off of some of them, and they end up taking one and throwing it and smashing it. This is the T-virus, and eventually it's going to spread through the lab. So that person goes away to leave the area, and they bump into someone. He gets coffee spilled on him, and we're in the laboratory in this hive area with a bunch of workers. This one woman and this guy's talking. They go into an elevator, and then there's like a fire drill, and you have like 3 rooms of stuff that happens. You have the elevator scenes with these people in the elevator. These are all workers. Then you have another scene where 3 people go into this lab area, and then the doors are shut. There's like flooding, there's a fire drill, and they're trying to get out of there. And you also have another scene where a bunch of people are trapped in this room. The doors are locked, and the virus is like spreading through the ventilation shaft and air ducts. It infects those people in that room. So that's what happens to them, and they get knocked out. And then You also have the people in the flooding room. One of the guys gets an axe and tries to hit the window, and only a piece breaks off. It's a pretty good shot. Then we switch to the elevator scene, where there's this other elevator that goes all the way down, and the people in it die. Pretty good shots there. And then we go to this other elevator where the people are in there, and they end up getting stuck in there through the fire drill, and it stops moving. Trying to figure out what's going on. One of them uses a cell phone to figure out what's going on, and they try to figure out how to get out of the elevator, and they eventually are able to pry the doors open somewhat, and they look outside of the elevator, and they see people dead in the room. So they can't pry it open anymore. They can only pry it open halfway. They're like kind of halfway on a floor, but not all the way down. So they have this one person try to climb through the elevator and get help, because she said she can fit. She gets halfway, but she kind of gets stuck. The elevator starts to activate, and she starts to get worried. So then the elevator starts to go all the way down, but it doesn't fully go down. It almost shows she's gonna die, but it doesn't go all the way, so she survives. And then after that, she's wanting to be pulled back in, and then they're wanting to pull her out. She's want to be put back in, but they want to, you know, push her out. And then eventually the elevator starts up again, and then it goes up, and then it ends with her head hitting like the ceiling part of the elevator, and it's pretty much assumed that she dies. So yeah, she hits the elevator and she dies. And then we switch to Alice, who's played by Mila Jovovich. She's the star of this film. You also have other actors in this film like Michelle Rodriguez, James Pervoy or something. I don't know how to exactly say his last name. He looks a lot like Thomas Jane. And you have some other actors in here. I'm not too familiar with their other names, but those are some of the actors you got. So we switch to a scene with Alice. She wakes up in a shower. She doesn't really know what's going on. She's getting aware about her surroundings, puts a bathrobe on, sees a dress on the table, puts it on, and then there's a drawer she opens that has like this gun in there with a code. Her and this other character, they work for Umbrella, and they have some history with the area they're in, but they're going through memory loss. Something with the virus and something that happened in the area caused memory loss for her and this other character that we see later on, so that's why they can't really remember everything right away. I think the set piece and area we're set in for this part of the film, which is like the mansion area, it's a pretty good area. I like it a lot. It's a good setting. It's a good creepy area, and it's a good setting for a horror film, so I definitely like the mansion that we start in. I do wish that there could have been more of this in the movie. I think one of the missed opportunities in this movie is they should have used more of this mansion, because it's a good set piece. I like the area itself. It's really big. You know, mansions go hand in hand with the Resident Evil games, especially like RE1, and you got kind of a mansion castle type area in RE0. So I think they should have used this mansion area a lot more. It's really good, and I think it's very underused in this movie. They really should have used it a lot more, because I just like the look and feel of it. But it is a pretty good area. But Alice is going through this mansion area, getting aware about her surroundings, checking the area out. She sees like a picture of someone she was married to. She looks at it, and you know, slowly throughout the film, and especially this scene, there's like flashbacks of trying to remember what's going on. She sees something move. There's like some kind of wind that goes on some kind of thing on a statue. So she goes outside of the mansion, and you see it lit up. It's this huge mansion area, kind of in like a wilderness type area. She goes outside, it's nighttime, walking around. There's like this path she's walking on. It has kind of like a roof above it, and then there's a whole bunch of leaves that are blown towards her and a bunch of wind coming towards her. So she eventually goes back in the mansion, and then she's grabbed by this one guy with this suit. He's a police officer, and she doesn't know what's going on. He's trying to grab her, and then these Umbrella soldiers break into the mansion. They bust through the window. You get some pretty good music that plays. It's a pretty good scene. You get some pretty good music that plays. The music in this film is really good, and the music that plays when they show up is pretty good as well, and I like it. They bust through. They handcuff the cop, asking him who he is, and he says he's a cop. And then the captain of the team goes to talk to Alice, saying reports. It's pretty much confirmed that she's like a soldier and she works for Umbrella, but she doesn't remember, and the captain's asking her what to report. And then one of the other soldiers basically says that something must have happened in this area, basically talks about how it knocks the memory out of Alice, the character, and that's what happened in this house. So after that, they plan on going into the hive, into the underground of this mansion. So they take the cop and Alice with them, and they go into the basement and hive area of this house. A lot of them take their helmets off, so you get to see who they are. You have the captain, you have this one guy, and then another guy who's kind of like the smart kind of technician. You got Michelle Rodriguez, who's like pretty much like the brawn, the tough soldier of the group. and then you have like the cop, and you have this other woman. So that's the umbrella team you have, and then you have like, you know, Alice, and you have the cop as well. So they go into an elevator, they go down to the hive. Their goal is basically to like take this device, I think it's like an EMP bomb or something, to disable the Red Queen, who is like this AI generated voice thing that's representative of like the daughter or something of the owner of Umbrella or something like that. So it's like a hologram AI kind of thing. So they go through the hive, they're checking out the Umbrella area, and they're making their way to the train. So they get on the train, and they got to restore the power to it. So Michelle Rodriguez goes underground. She's turning the power on, and she can hear something far away, something moving around, but we don't see what it is at first. I'm going to assume it's like the liquor, because we get the liquor later on in the film, or it could be something else like a zombie, but I'm going to assume it's a liquor. But yeah, you get that scene where she sees something behind the train area and behind this hole in the grate. She's turning the power on, and then someone scares her, and then she goes up, she like electrocutes and messes with the one soldier that's trying to, you know, jump scare her. She gets up from turning the power on, and then she's trying to open this one door, and then this other soldier volunteers to get the door open. So he opens the door, this guy that's unconscious comes through, and he's the husband and boyfriend to Mila Jovovich's character Alice, and she slowly recognizes him when she sees him, because the memories slowly come back, and he eventually wakes up. And yeah, and then after he wakes up, he's a part of the team. And then after that, the train stops, they get out of the train, and they're going through, and then, you know, they're going to make their way to disable the Red Queen. And then I think the James Purevoy, however you say his name, I think his name is Spence in this movie, he's trying to ask him what's going on, and then Alice eventually wants to ask the captain, what's going on here, what's the information? So he eventually stops and briefs him and tells him what's going on here. And we get like a brief overview of the hive area they're in. We get like a shot of the hive and how huge it is. Now it's under this mansion, so we see basically what it looks like, and we get background information on it. And after that, they make their way through this hallway, and the area lights up, and it's the laboratory Umbrella area that we saw from the beginning lit up. So they're going through there, and then when they're going through there, there's another area they go to. There's like these locked up crates that have things in them, and one of them looks like pretty much a liquor and a cocoon. And then the captain basically tells people, okay, keep it tight. He tells Michelle Rodriguez's character Rain to stay behind with the cop, and then he decides to go ahead. So he tells certain people to stay back, certain people to stay ahead. I do like this captain character. He's a really good character. I wish he got to be in the movie more. We'll get to that soon. But I do like the captain character. The actor does a pretty good job, and I think he's pretty good in this role, as well as the other actors. I think Michelle Rodriguez does pretty good in this movie. Mila Jovovich is not too bad in this film. The actors do a good job for the most part. So Alice goes to check out this one thing. She's looking in to see what it is, and then the captain shows up, says, oh, we were supposed to keep it tight. She says something like, you know, I don't even want to remember what it is, even if I could. And the captain says, I don't blame you. So they go to this one area where the technician soldier is like messing with the computer to open up the door to where they're going to disable the Red Queen with this like bomb or EMP or this device they have. So the door opens up, the captain tells Alice to stay behind. Oh, the captain goes first to scout it, and the door opens, and then he tells his soldiers to come through with the bomb. And eventually when they do go through with the bomb, both of the doors shut, and then some weapon is activated. The Red Queen's activated this. So these soldiers are stuck in this hallway, they're trapped, and eventually these lasers are activated where they can basically kill people. So these lasers are activated, they're trying to back up. The first laser comes through, takes this guy's fingers off, and then takes this woman's head off. The gore is alright. It's not like the most amazing gore ever, but the gore is good for what it is, with the fingers that come off and then the woman's head that comes off. The gore is pretty good for what it is. And yeah, we get this scene with the lasers, and then after that happens, they're trying to get the technician to get the doors open so they can save these people. So then after that happens, there's another laser that comes after one of the soldiers. He almost dodges it, but then it goes up and goes through him. And then the captain's the last one in there. He ends up dodging the laser by jumping on the roof, and then a piece of his knife comes off, and it seems like for a minute he survives, and then the lasers come toward him, and then they turn into like a whole bunch of lasers where there's no way out of there. So as soon as the door opens, it goes through him, and he eventually dies. And I think the effects of him and the woman's head coming off are pretty good, where the laser goes through, but you don't see him break apart right away. I think that's pretty cool. So you have this scene where the lasers go through him, and at first he's standing there, and then eventually he just breaks into particles. Pretty good stuff, pretty cool scene. I do wish he would have lived though. when I watched this, I was surprised that he died. I was like, damn, because I haven't seen these movies in a long time, but I was kind of bummed out. I was like, damn, man, I liked this captain character, and they kill him off like that. I didn't think he was going to die that quick. I thought he was going to be somebody that was in the movie a lot. I didn't think he was going to get killed off like that. I really think they should have kept him alive because I liked him and I liked the actor. I wish they didn't kill him off. I thought he was really cool. So he gets killed off and the lasers put him into pieces, and I was like, holy shit, I can't believe they killed him off, because I didn't think he was going to die that quick in the movie. So after that happens, they see the aftermath and, you know, they're shocked. The technician tells Allison, the Spence character, that we still have to carry out our mission. We still have to do this. So they go through the hallway, they take the bomb, and they put it in there to disable the Red Queen. And then the Red Queen's like talking to him, and the technician's telling Alice, don't pay it no mind. And the Red Queen's basically telling him, you're going to die down here. So they put the bomb in there, they disable the Red Queen's area. And then after that happens, it pretty much like disables the power itself. And what that ends up doing is it ends up opening like areas in the hive that were locked otherwise. And it ends up causing zombies to come out, and like zombie dogs, and even a licker at one point. Not all at once, but in certain areas. So we switch back to Michelle Rodriguez, the one soldier, JD, and then the cop. And then they're in this area. Michelle Rodriguez's character hears something. She goes to check it out. She sees the person, the back turned. She checks it out. She gets close to the person, and it's a zombie. Ends up biting Michelle Rodriguez's hand. So she's struggling with him, and then JD comes and helps her and gets the zombie off of her. After that happens, they're shooting it for a bit, trying to kill it, and then it goes behind something. There's like keys on the ground, and the cop basically goes for that so he can unlock his handcuffs. And then the other characters come back to, they want to know what the shooting was, what they heard, and then they basically get briefed on there was this person that attacked Rain, this zombie. And then after that, the cop has like some dialogue with one of the soldiers, and then they see that the zombie they shot is gone, disappeared. The technician tells Rain and the other soldier that the other soldiers died in the hallway with the lasers and the captain's dead, so he tells them that. And then after that, zombies start showing up. They start hearing stuff, and zombies slowly start to show up. There's this one pretty cool looking zombie that has like an axe, kind of a cringe inducing type zombie. Not cringe as in oh, but cringe as in basically, you know, somewhat hard to watch because it deals with like, you know, kind of a broken bone type thing. So the one zombie coming towards him has like this axe in his hand, and one of his feet is broken and the other is stable, so it's kind of gruesome, but he's like walking through, and then the zombies start showing up and they start getting swarmed and surrounded. Some of the zombie effects aren't the best. Like there's one zombie where half of his face is kind of off, and there's another zombie with half of his face is off. The effects on those two zombies isn't the best. I know this is a movie from 2002, from way back in the day, but the effects could be a lot better for these specific zombies. It looks a little bit it could be a lot better. So when the zombies start showing up, they start shooting at the zombies and surviving against them. So the soldiers start shooting them with the machine gun. While that's happening, the cop's trying to get the handcuffs off him, and he ends up dropping him into this grate, and he's trying to back away from the zombie, kicking it in its face, and he eventually gets these keys and eventually unlocks the handcuffs while keeping the zombie away from him. And you can see like this, something like breaks through this wall. I don't really know what it is. I don't know if it's the liquor or what exactly it is. It could be, but it's like something breaks through a small hole. It's like some wind coming through. Then Alice gets him out of there. The soldiers are trying to survive against the zombies, or shooting the zombies, and you have them trying to get through this door, and one of them can't figure out the code, and he basically asked Spence, why didn't you open the door? He said he didn't know the code. They're trying to get through. The technician tells them the code so they can get through the door. It was overall a good scene and a good action scene with them killing zombies and stuff, so you do get some good zombie action. The zombies look good for the most part, except for those two that had kind of, you know, not the best looking special effects on their face, to be honest. But you get some good action scenes with the zombies. And then Alice and the cop, they are around the area. They're going back to where the soldiers are, and then the technician tells them what the code is while they're fighting off the zombies and using guns on them. JD uses the code on the door, it opens, and then as soon as it opens, there's a whole bunch of zombies in this area, and he ends up getting pulled in from all these zombies. I know this movie came out before Shaun of the Dead, so it's maybe not a fair comparison, but this scene reminded me of the scene from Shaun of the Dead where the guy opens the door and then he just gets pretty much pulled in by all the zombies. That's what it kind of reminded me of. Even though this is before Shaun of the Dead, that's what that scene reminded me of. I think his name was David in Shaun of the Dead. But The soldier opens the door, and then a bunch of zombies pull him in. They try to save him, but if there's too many of them, they can't really help JD, so he ends up getting killed and eaten by the zombies. They get out of there, and they go to a door, and then they go to an area, and they're like split up from Alice and the cop, but the rest go into the room. They lock the door, and they're trying to weigh out their options. They're basically talking about, how are we going to get out of here, and basically talking about how we're going to get out of here and stuff. And then you have another scene where Alice is walking, and then she's walking with a cop, and then after a while the cop kind of gets away from her. You get this one scene where the liquor breaks out of like this box thing, and it's cool that the liquor's in this movie. The effects though for the liquor, like breaking through the door, and how the liquor looks in this scene really isn't the best. It doesn't really look that great, to be honest. It looks pretty cheap. The CGI could definitely be a lot better here. So the liquor and the effects on it do not look that great, to be honest. It could be a lot better when it's breaking through the door, but it breaks through the door and escapes. You get a scene where Alice goes to this area. It's kind of like this, I guess, lab area with like dog cages. She eventually goes towards this door. She hears something. She turns around. There's zombie dogs. So this is our first introduction of the zombie dogs in this movie. The zombie dogs do look pretty good, though. I think the zombie dogs here look pretty good. The Doberman dogs they chose. So the zombie dogs look pretty good. They were in the lab at the beginning, and they eventually got infected by the virus that was spreading through the lab. So they were at the beginning of the film. But she sees the zombie dog. It shows up, and then she eventually goes into this room to get away from the zombie dog. She has no way to defend herself. She locks the door, and then she gets surprised by a zombie. She beats the zombie up, and then takes the pistol, and then the zombie dog comes through the window, and she goes outside of the room, and then a whole bunch of more zombie dogs show up. And you get a pretty cool action scene here. Some, satisfying stuff, like when she hit the zombie in the room before this happened, you had a satisfying sound effect there. And when she goes outside the room, all the zombie dogs show up, so she starts to shoot all of them with the pistol and deal with all of them. So it's a pretty good action scene. And then after that, she runs out of ammo, and the one zombie dog comes back out of the room, and you get a pretty cool scene that I do like in this movie where the zombie dog's coming towards her, and she kind of jumps up this wall, and she does like a kick into the zombie dog's face and kills him. And it's a pretty good scene. I like that one a lot. Pretty good action scene. So she gets done dealing with the zombie dogs, and then you get the cop character. He goes into like this office building, and then he finds like this note, and there's like a zombie on the side of the glass, but he finds this note, and then he ends up seeing his sister there, and she ends up being a zombie. He was reading a note about her, and then his sister ends up being a zombie trying to attack him, and then he tries to restrain her, and then Alice shows up and kills her sister with like this cube thing. And after that happens, they talk to each other. It's basically, he says that his sister was an undercover spy to expose Umbrella and to bring them down, and he said he couldn't do it himself, so he had his sister do it, work on the inside. And he said that his sister knew some kind of contact that would help her expose Umbrella and do what he wanted to do. But he said he never met her, but Alice, through the flashbacks and through seeing her and the flashbacks she's seen of her memory slowly coming back, she knows that she was the one that knew his sister and had a scene with her where they were going to plan something. And because Alice worked for Umbrella, and then this woman was going to expose something about Umbrella, so they had like a meeting. And then after that, the cop basically says that, if someone gets a hold of this virus, it could be worth a lot of money to someone. And then like Alice says after all this, and says, yeah, someone. And after that, we get a scene of like a scene of the hive in general. We see like people moving around. And after that, we get Alice and the cop. They go back, and they end up going into this room with the rest of the characters. There's zombies behind them. They're trying to close the door. And while they're trying to close it, the Spence character and them are trying to hold the door. They eventually do close the door. Now they're trying to figure out a way to get out of there. They try to go through the other door, but both of them are blocked and filled to the brim by zombies. So they're trying to figure out what they can do. They ask about, what about the one path where they went to disable the Red Queen? But that scene won't work either because it's a dead end, as one of them says. So what they end up finding out is Michelle Rodriguez's character Rain basically says that we have only a certain amount of time before we can get out of here, because Spence says, well, maybe someone can come and help us, but then Michelle Rodriguez's character basically says that, there's a timer, and once the timer goes down, the doors will close and they'll be trapped down there forever. So yeah, Alice has this idea where she wants to bring the Red Queen back, where the technician is against it, so she brings the Red Queen back, and they're asking her about things. Rain's character's upset about what the Red Queen did to her soldiers and people like that. So they get information from her. Red Queen tells him all about the zombies, what the T-virus does to people, how it brings them back to life, how to kill a zombie. If you get bit by a zombie, you become a zombie. It's pretty much what they fill him in on, the Red Queen. That's what she fills him in on. And after that, you have a scene where, like, Alice basically makes a barter and says, we need a way out of here. If you don't help us, then we'll shut you down or something. So after that, they open this hatch and they go down this ladder and they go in like these tunnel areas, which is another good area of the film. I like these like tunnel areas they're in. The laboratory they were in before is pretty good as well. So they go into the tunnel area and they're going through like this tunnel type area, and then eventually one of the characters gets pushed towards a grate. Rain kind of argues with the Spence character, and then when Spence push towards the grate, he's grabbed by a bunch of zombies, and a whole bunch of zombies show up and they're surrounded again. So they're fighting him off. One of them grabs a sewer gate to push some of them back. One of them has like a pistol, and then Alice is fighting some of them, twists one of their heads with her legs, and eventually she has an idea to jump on the pipes. She jumps up on the pipes and she tries to bring the others with them, so they go up the pipes. So they're all trying to go on top of the pipes, get away from these zombies in this tunnel area. Eventually the technician's trying to go up there while Rain's down there, Michelle Rodriguez, and eventually the technician gets bit on the leg and kind of pulled down, so Rain helps him. He's able to go up. And then Rain, when she's down there, she sees JD back as a zombie, hesitates for a minute, he bites her in the neck, and then she eventually kills him. Then we cut to the next scene where they're kind of just on top of the pipes, and she's like basically, you know, talking shit to the zombies. When there's like blood coming from her hand, she has some dialogue with Alice. And then you have another scene, they're looking at the zombies on the ground and stuff like that. And then after that, they're making their way through the rest of the tunnel area, walking along these pipes, trying to find a way out of here. So they end up knocking this gate down, the cop and Spence. They go through there. Eventually one of the pipes goes down and the technician falls. So he's kind of separated from the rest of the cast. He's stuck down there with a bunch of zombies, dealing with them, pushing them off. And then he makes up a pipe. Alice and the others try to make a plan to help him, but he's trapped over there with a bunch of zombies. So they try to make some plan, but he just says, leave me behind. There ain't no way to save me. And he has like only one bullet left in his gun. So they end up leaving him behind, and at first it seemed like he's going to shoot himself because he's looking at his bullets and only has one bullet left in his gun. So at first it seemed like he's going to shoot himself, and it looks that way when they cut away, but when they get back, he actually didn't shoot himself. He actually just shot on one zombie, and then he finds his own way out of there. And I like the dialogue he has where he says, if you want food, you're going to have to work for your food, or something like that. It's pretty good dialogue. I like that. The movie does have some good dialogue here and there that I like. Like, there was a scene where Spence had pretty good dialogue where he says, yeah, I'm sure, like they're referring to the Red Queen when they're going to revive her, and he says, yeah, I'm sure she's really going to want to help us after how we treated her. So that's good dialogue. I like that one. And then that dialogue there where you're going to have to work for your food if you want it, or something like that, from the technician. That was pretty good dialogue. And then after that, they're going through this hallway area, and they're holding up Rain's character because she's starting to become fatigued and tired. The virus is slowly starting to affect her. Alice stops and she starts to see more flashbacks where she's seeing that a whole bunch of people worked at this laboratory. So she's seeing like flashbacks of all the people that are working at this laboratory. So she's seeing that, all these people around her. And then the cop goes and checks on her, and she sees that there was actually a virus and an antivirus, and she sees like a flashback of them testing the virus on like these rabbits. There's a cure. She says there's a cure, so there's a chance they could save Michelle Rodriguez. So they go to this other area, and it's like kind of half flooded, and they're looking for the virus. The virus isn't there. She wonders where it is. Spence's character has a flashback, a scene where he was also at the area that Alice's character was when she was talking to the sister of the cop. So he gets the flashback of that, and then there's a flashback scene where we see that the person who caused the outbreak, or who caused the virus to be broken and infect the entire lab, was Spence's character. So we see a flashback scene of him taking the virus, making his way out of there, looking at his watch. He's the one that smashed the virus in that area and got it infected. He's the one that bumped into him and got the coffee spilled to him, so it was Spence. He gets out of there, so he's pretty much like a villain. He realizes what he did. So after that, they're asking him what's going on, and after that, he goes for the pistol, and it's basically revealed that he was the bad guy and that he caused all this, but he didn't remember it until now. So after that, he's talking to Alice, saying, you know, we could make a lot of money from doing this, and he says, you know what you were doing when you were working for Umbrella. Alice says, I was trying to basically expose him. He's pointing a pistol at him. The cop tries to come down and gets close, but he's not able to do anything because the gun's in his face. And then after that, there's a zombie that's slowly coming up from the water, and they're waiting for the zombie to basically come after him behind him. He's talking to him, And Rain basically asks him, Michelle Rodriguez basically asks him, where's the antivirus, where's the cure? And he basically says it's near the train, that's where it is. And he says he could have gotten out of there, but I think he mentions that he was knocked out or something with the Red Queen security, so he wasn't able to get out of there, but he almost was going to get on the train. His plan was to basically take the viruses, leave Umbrella, and like sell it to someone for money. That's essentially what his plan was. That's why he was going to get out of there and why he did what he did. So after that, the zombie attacks him from behind, bites him in the neck. He takes care of the zombie behind him, and then the cop tries to attack him, and Alice tries to attack him, but it's unsuccessful. He turns around, aiming a gun at him. Then he makes it out of the area, and then after that, he locks the door behind him. They're all three stuck in there, and they're trying to find a way out of there. The time's running low. Rain checks the watch. The time's running low. And then after that, you get another scene where you see like a scene of JD dead as a zombie, and you see in the background like there's a liquor in the tunnels, so the liquors get close to him, so you see the liquor in the tunnels. And after that, you get them trying to get out of that area, trying to enter the codes, but they can't open the door. They ask the Red Queen how can they get out of there, and she says that I can let you out of here, but you got to do something for me. And they basically want them to kill Rain's character and kill her since she's infected. They're against it, but Rain says go for it, because if I die, then we all die. So they do plan to kill her with the axe, but there's a liquor that tries to break through this glass. It can hold them for a bit, but not forever, as the Red Queen mentions. They don't want to do it, so at one moment, Alice almost hits her with the axe, but she ends up smashing the computer that the Red Queen's in. Then the door ends up opening, and they see the technician character is still alive, so he ended up frying her and messing with the circuits and getting the door open. After that, they get out of that area to go towards the train and the virus, and the liquor breaks through the window, and they hurry up and close the door. They make their way to the train. Before this, though, there was another scene I forgot to talk about. So yeah, there was another scene where Spence leaves Alice, Rain, and the cop behind in the room, locks the door. Since he's infected and he got bit by the zombie, he makes his way to the train so he can have the antivirus and cure himself. So he makes his way there, and while he's trying to shoot his arm with the cure, he hears something. The liquor shows up, jumps down from the ceiling, kills him, attacks him, and bites him. So he ends up getting killed and infected by the liquor. So not only has he been bitten by a zombie, he was also bitten by this liquor that killed him. And then Alice and the others are seeing this happen on this screen. And then eventually what happens is the Red Queen explains what this creature is and what happens after this creature ate this thing. It sort of grew and became bigger, which is an interesting idea because they never actually did that in the Resident Evil video games, where the liquor eats someone and it actually becomes somewhat bigger. That's actually a pretty interesting idea, and definitely something I think was cool about the movie is that idea they did with the liquor where he got slightly bigger after he ate someone. That's a pretty cool idea. They should explore that in the video games. Yeah, that was a scene I forgot to mention. So with that, like I was mentioning before, Alice and Rain and the cop make their way out of that room. They make their way to the train. They find the cure, and they end up taking it. They're going to give one to Rain and then one to the technician since they're both infected. Alice has an axe with her. She sees Spence there dead, and then he comes back up as a zombie, and then she has some last dialogue with him, and then she ends up hitting him in the head with the axe and taking him out since he became a zombie. So you have that, and then Alice gets on the train. They make their way back to get out of this area, and while this is happening, she gives Rain the antivirus, and then Rain passes out, and then the antivirus is given to the technician. After that happens, the liquor starts attacking the train. He claws through a wall. He attacks the cop's arm, so now he has scratches on his arm. He pretty much gets infected. And after that, they're trying to deal with the liquor threat, and then the technician, he does something or activates something on the train, and then like the door opens and he gets pulled out and basically killed by the liquor right after he got cured. So that's the death of his character. And after that, you have the cop and you have Alice trying to deal with this liquor enemy. So he comes in there. She's trying to shoot bullets at the liquor with her handgun, trying to shoot him with pistol bullets. There's a scene where she's trying to stab the tongue of the liquor with a pipe. And then there's another scene where a cop tries to push all these pipes bundled up to smash it into the liquor. So he does that and damages them temporarily. And after that, he tries to go for, I think, like the gun or no, to open the door to get the liquor out of there. Because there's like a door on the bottom that they can open to get the liquor to drop down and get him off the train. And then the Rain character actually comes back as a zombie and the antivirus doesn't work. So the cop's dealing with her for a minute. She does look pretty cool as a zombie. Definitely one of the best looking zombies in the film. The cop's dealing with Rain as a zombie, and then he ends up shooting her in the head with a pistol, and then I think she like bumps into the wall and it ends up like opening the doors. The Licker's falling off the train and he's getting burnt on fire and he eventually dies. So they get off their train, they make their way back into the house, getting out of the hive as the door shut. The timer eventually went to 0, the one that Rain had on her watch, to basically signal when these doors were going to shut and when they couldn't get out of this area. So they make their way to the top of this house, and then they stop for a minute, and Alice and the cop are talking to each other, and the cop falls on the ground because the infection's starting to spread through his arm. You can see kind of like these small like infection come out of the scratches and small like little tentacles, and then Alice is about to give him the antivirus and help him, and then this door opens, and then he's like CDC looking umbrella, like basically scientists and like these white CDC type outfits come through to grab the cop and experiment on him, and Alice is trying to fight him off, but she can't really do it, but she's trying to fight him off, and they take away the cop character and they put him on this table, and one of the scientists says we're going to prepare him for the Nemesis program, so that's probably going to lead into this guy becoming Nemesis since he was infected by a Licker, so they're going to do something with that. So they're going to put him into the Nemesis program. They're taking him away. This infection's starting to start in his arm. Alice is trying to help him and fight these scientists, but she can't really do anything, so she doesn't succeed in that. And after that, the next scene you go to is Alice gets transported to this like hospital area, and then they transport her to this hospital area. She wasn't able to fight them off. She like eventually loses to them. So she's transported to this hospital area. She wakes up with all these things plugged into her, so she takes them out, trying to get aware about of her surroundings. She takes one of like the syringes to open the door. She gets out of there. She's walking out of the hospital, and then we see that she's actually in Raccoon City. So she comes out of the Raccoon City hospital, and you see kind of like the city's in destruction and turmoil with crash cars, and it looks like absolute hell, like some kind of apocalypse or some kind of catastrophe happened there. So she's walking through the streets and she finds this shotgun in a car, and then she like cocks it, and then it kind of slowly zooms out from her and zooms out on the city to see where she's at and see what's going on, and that's how the movie ends. And as it's doing that, it plays the song that Marilyn Manson made for the movie, which like I said is a really cool song for the movie, and that's the movie overall. And I think overall with the Resident Evil 2002 movie, I think this was a decent, okay film overall. I don't think it was like a masterpiece or a classic, but I don't think it was a terrible film. It's entertaining and it's okay for a one watch. I think as like an adaptation though, for the Resident Evil video games, it really isn't that great. It's not that good of an adaptation of the Resident Evil video games, because the only thing it really adapts from the Resident Evil video games is Umbrella, the Licker, the zombie dogs, and the zombies, which they're cool enemies. I like seeing them in the movie. Umbrella's in the movie, but you don't get any of the characters from the Resident Evil video games. None of them show up, and it's just kind of jarring, because it's like you have these other elements of the Resident Evil games, but you're missing everything else. So I think that in terms of like a Resident Evil adaptation, while it has some things from the game, it's not really good enough in terms of being an adaptation, because there is 0 Resident Evil characters in this movie. And then I think some other issues with the film, some of the effects on certain zombies, the effects on the Licker could be a lot better. I will give the film some lenience, I guess, because it did come out in 2002, but still, the effects look somewhat dated. It's kind of sad, though, that we still have movies with this exact same problem, even 20 years later. So I would say, like 20 years later nowadays, the Resident Evil 2002 movie doesn't hold up. I would say, as a movie on its own, it's okay, it's decent. If you like zombies, you like horror movies, you like action, then it's worth at least one watch. I found it to be an okay film, a decent film. It was there. I liked the setting, the lab, the mansion. The action that was there was good. I didn't mind the characters. I didn't mind the actors. I think what would have made the movie a lot better, though, and why it's just an okay, decent film, is it should have been a lot better as an adaptation for the Resident Evil video game series. It should have did more than just having Umbrella and the Lickers and the dog and the zombies. It should have had the Resident Evil characters. I think certain characters should have stayed in the movie longer, like the captain character. I think he should have been one of the characters to live through the entire movie, because I found him to be a pretty compelling character, and I liked the actor, and I think it was a mistake killing him off. So I wasn't a fan of them killing that character off, because I did like that character, and I think that he should have been kept alive because he could have helped bolster the film somewhat, because I think he was one of the stronger characters, and I think it was a shame he died. And I think maybe another issue with the film I could point out is, I think the mansion area that you only see like twice, which is near the beginning of the film and the end of the film, I think the mansion area is very underused. I really wish they would have used the mansion area in this movie a lot more. I mean, what we do see of it is cool, and the laboratory is cool, and the tunnel areas is cool, but we should have saw more of the mansion, because I think it was a really good setting. It was like another thing they could have done to kind of adapt from Resident Evil. It had that Resident Evil feel to it, since it was a mansion like the Spencer mansion from Resident Evil 1. I would say what would have made the movie better is if they would have used more of the mansion area, kept the captain character alive, and, you know, it would have been a little bit better than just decent. But as it stands, I think the Resident Evil 2002 movie overall, 20 years later, when I think of it nowadays, does it hold up? I would say yes and no, that it does hold up. I mean, even back in the day when this movie came out, it never really was regarded as a classic. It never was held as a masterpiece. So I would say nowadays, 20 years later, revisiting it, what I think of it nowadays, does it hold up? I would say yes and no, it does hold up. Yes, in the sense that it's an okay film, it's decent, it's okay for like a one watch, it's entertaining, but no on the sense that it's not good enough for a video game adaptation, and it could have been a lot better, and they could have did a lot more with it in terms of adapting more of the Resident Evil video game series by just having more than just an Umbrella logo and a few enemies. They could have had characters from the Resident Evil video games. They could have used the mansion area more. Even the outside of the mansion, I wish they would have used more, because I just like the feel of the mansion, and I like the outside and how it's dark. It's just a cool setting, and it's so underused in this movie. It's a real shame, and the captain character was killed off too early. But as it stands, I think the Resident Evil 2002 movie overall, it's a decent film. I mean, I would say, if we're talking about the grand scheme in general of like a lot of video game movies, I haven't seen every video game movie out there, but I guess I would say, compared to a lot of video game movies I've seen, if I was to compare this Resident Evil movie to a lot of them, it is good if I compare it to those. Like, it's definitely better than the shitty Dead Rising movies. It's definitely better than the Blood Rain movie, so I could at least say that. But yeah, like it's probably, like, out of the video game movies, it's one of the better ones, I guess. Some usage of the outside area, which looked cool as well. And just overall, if it was more true to the source material and it was better at adapting the Resident Evil video games, if you had like Chris in here and all those characters instead of, you know, it's like the movie gives us all these characters that are not even Resident Evil characters. They've never been in the video games. And the characters in this movie, they're okay, I don't mind them, but they were not in the Resident Evil video games. And it's like, if you're going to put a liquor in here, zombie dogs in here, zombies in here, the T-virus in here, if you're going to put Umbrella in here, then why not just go all out and put the Resident Evil video game characters in there? I don't understand why they go halfway with including some of the video game stuff, but then not doing the rest. Instead of giving us characters from the Resident Evil video games, they give us new characters that have nothing to do with the video game. And it's just weird. It's like, this should have just been its own zombie movie then. This might as well just been its own thing. Take the Umbrella stuff out, take the whole liquor thing out. This should have just been its own movie, you know? So yeah, overall, my opinion on the Resident Evil 2002 movie is, I think it's a okay, decent film. I guess if I had to give a score and a rating for the Resident Evil 2002 movie, I guess I would give it like a 6 out of 10. I think that's a fair score. I give it a 6 out of 10 because it's a okay, just decent time waster, good for at least one watch zombie film. There's definitely worse movies out there, but it's not a classic, it's not a masterpiece, it's not a movie that you're going to want to go back and keep watching over and over and over again. It's not going to be one of the best movies you've ever seen, because there's an underuse of a good area, like I said, the mansion area, and the biggest problem with this film being that it doesn't do a good job at adapting the Resident Evil video game series. So I think there's like two ways of looking at this movie. As a movie by itself, it's okay, it's decent, it's entertaining. If you like zombies, if you like Resident Evil, or even if you're not a Resident Evil fan, if you like zombies, if you like horror, you'll probably at least get something out of this and be entertained by this. I would say you probably would feel the same way back when it first came out to now. And if you're a Resident Evil fan, you might feel the same way I did, or you might hate this movie more than I did. Some extra things I can mention about the Resident Evil 2002 movie. Another scene I forgot to talk about that I think had a really good part is there was a scene where they were going in the basement of the mansion and they saw like these yellow watered tanks. Some of the soldiers were going to open the door, but it was flooded, so they got to go somewhere else. They stay in this room for a bit. Spence and Alice talk to each other. She's getting some memories. Spence offers her his jacket, and then there's like a scene where a body comes forward into the tank, but it's dead, and the cop gets startled by it. And you get this pretty cool scene. I thought it was a good scene, and it's a good shot and a good idea where while the characters are talking, the cop's looking to the left, he's looking up at the vent, and he can faintly hear something through the vent. And I like this shot and sound effect and what they do here where he can like faintly hear pretty much zombies on the other side of this air vent, and the cop can hear that. And I thought that was a pretty cool moment. I do like that scene. I do think that was pretty cool, and I liked that. And after that, they end up leaving that area. I just want to talk about that scene because I forgot to mention it. The action that is there is good. I like the set pieces. I like the mansion. I like the laboratory. I like the tunnels. I like most of the characters. My favorites would be, I didn't mind Alice. I liked the Rain character, Michelle Rodriguez, was pretty good in this movie. I liked the captain character. I liked the technician. Spence was a decent character. He had like a villain arc where he became like a villain. So the characters were pretty good for the most part. The actors did their jobs well. It was cool to have the zombies in here. The zombies looked pretty good. The action was pretty good. It was cool to see the liquor. I feel like the look of the liquor is kind of dodgy a bit. It could be a lot better, but it looks eh. It's cool to have the liquor in there. The stuff with him's good. It's good to have the zombie dogs in here. They look pretty good. The action that is there is good. The actors do their jobs all right. The dialogue is pretty good, especially when you have a few things that's funny, like when Michelle Rodriguez's character says she needs to get laid, and then you have Spence's character who says, I doubt the Red Queen's going to help us after how we've treated her lately. He said something like that. That got a chuckle out of me when I heard it. The music for the film is really good as well. The music is top tier. Wasn't too big on the outro song. Like, I listened to the outro. I wasn't too big on the music they used for the outro. Just isn't my style of music. But for most of the film, the song that Marilyn Manson made that was used a few times, that song is amazing. It's the best song in this movie. One of the best movie soundtrack songs ever. It's really fucking good. And then the other song they used here and there, especially when the Umbrella Soldiers infiltrated, that song was really good as well. So the score is pretty damn good for this film, and definitely one of the best things about this movie. If you've seen the Resident Evil 2002 movie, let me know what you think of it. Yeah, that's really all I have to say. Movie reviews are not something I do too often, so apologize I'm not the best at it, but I try my best. That's all I gotta say in this video. Peace.